Welcome to Speak for Yourself. Marcellus Wiley. Emmanuel Acho is out today. It's his 30th birthday. Also, it's his book release day, so it's his book's birthday as well. Well, he's not here to support me, so I'll just go out here solo creep and get it started. Let's get it started with Cam Newton. And the Patriots snapped their 4-game losing streak last night against the winless Jets. And Cam was a big reason why. He ran for 2 touchdowns, including one with under 2 minutes left to tie it up. On New England's next possession, Cam led a drive to set up the game-winning field goal. After the game, he was asked about ending the game without a turnover. Listen.
I'm getting tired of sucking. Simple. I'm more relieved not having the feeling of losing because there's a lot of people in that locker room, that deserves, more than what we have been showing. A lot of our fans have been let down with the lackluster performances of myself, amongst other people, but I only can speak for myself, and I will.
Joined now by Fox NFL analyst LeVar Arrington and Mark Schlereth. Stinky, so let's start with you. Did Cam silence his doubters last night?
Oh, I don't think he silenced his doubters. I mean, there's still going to be doubters, but, he acquitted himself pretty well, although it was against the Jets. So I think we have to be careful about saying, we're silencing doubters. They are the Jets. But, to finish the game without a turnover, to complete 70, almost 80% of your passes, to do all those things that he did, that's a great start. The thing I like most about that is not silencing your doubters. It's taking responsibility for the way you've played. And I think you have to do that. And that shows some maturity that maybe in the past that Cam Newton wasn't willing to show. But that's the part about Cam Newton that I really appreciate, man. I haven't played well enough. I've been the one that made the mistakes. I've been the one that has let my teammates down. And to focus on those things, that's how you grow. That's how you get better. That's how you are accountable for and take responsibility for where you are right now. So I think that part was good, but the doubters are still going to be there because you won against the Jets.
And that's the problem I have with it. Look, the critics aren't going to be silenced by this because they're going to continue to move the goalposts. As you said right there, Mark, it's funny when you have individual success, they say, well, how'd the team do? And then when you have team success, they say, well, who'd you play against? And they just keep moving the goalposts to a point where Cam Newton, in a losing effort but a great individual performance against Seattle, we're singing his praises. And then he actually has a good performance and he wins the ball game, but it's against the Jets. So then now everyone has an issue with it. It just doesn't make any sense in that respect. If you're going to be an evaluator, you have to look at performance, even extracting that from actual winning and losing. So Cam Newton is trending in the right direction. Those doubters out there that are saying, but who'd you play against? But what about the team success? Are really getting lost in the conversation. The conversation is first, Cam Newton getting successful plays, Cam Newton feeling comfortable in this system, Cam Newton getting acclimated to this culture. I see that, LeVar, trending upward.
Yeah, I don't think it was enough of a game to silence the doubters, as you both have mentioned. But I will say this. Why put doubt at the feet of Cam Newton, right? Solely. This is a depleted offensive team. This is a depleted defensive team of guys that have opted out on the year, on the season. This is a team that's trying to find its way with so many question marks. You had the departure of, the greatest player of all time in the history of the sport. So to look at Cam and solely say, I doubt you, Cam, based off of where this team currently is, or if you're looking at how he has played, I think it's unjust. I don't think that it is rightly placed. And I will also add to this, if he is able to carry, which it will be his effort that would lead to them being able to win this upcoming game against the Ravens, then the doubters really do have to fall all the way back on how they're viewing Cam Newton.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Cam is in a situation where he's dressing up, putting lipstick on this pig, dressing up this sorry team that we all knew that wasn't going to be much. That's the same reason Tom Brady left this team. He left because he was like, nah, I am not going down with this ship. You guys are going to damage my reputation, damage my resume, damage my legacy by going out there with this depleted receiving core. Cam Newton last night completed 18 passes to undrafted wide receivers, which is the most in the Super Bowl era with a winning performance. Like, Cam Newton is playing with guys we've never heard of, we've never seen. And that was one of the things that was a positive for Tom Brady. He could turn a no-name into a household name. But when Cam Newton does it, all of a sudden we move the conversation just a little more and start to say, hey, who did he play against? Or, hey, well, he's not looking amazing as a dual threat. Not exactly what we expected. Stink, to me, is just a conversation where people don't look like they ever want to be satisfied if you're talking about Cam Newton.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's part of that. And I think some of that, goes back to when you watch him in the kind of MVP performance he had throughout the course of his career and in 2015, a different style of football. Obviously, he was a physical freak. He was completely gifted. And then, there was issues with the intermediate passing game and some of those things that he was able to overcome. In 2018, for about 9 games, he was exceptional throwing the football. But we don't put that on him, right? That was the outlier. That was the anomaly, right? And we want to see that. But you're 100% right. I mean, ultimately, the thing I love is Cam Newton will say, hey, man, I sucked. Like, I wasn't good enough, and I'll move on, and I'll be okay with that. And there are some guys that we will never give the credit to, and he seems to be one of those guys, and that's okay. I don't think it bothers him. I think he's just going out there playing for himself, playing for the opportunity to see where he lands next year and to see how he can revitalize his career after 2 years of being injured. Here's the crazy thing. Right, we keep talking about, and I've met with the Buccaneers. I've done 3 Buccaneers games. I've met with Tom Brady and say, hey, new offense, new system, new this, new that, new receivers, trying to figure it out. Those are all legitimate, right? New offense, new terminology. They're all legitimate. And I'll give that to Tom Brady. But you know what I'm also willing to do? I'm also willing to give that to Cam Newton because it's true. It's hard to do those things. But we don't ever talk about that with Cam, right? We expect him to go out there and run around and do the things he does and put the team on his back and carry him. And you're 100% right, Marcellus. There's a reason Tom Brady left New England. It was because, man, I don't have the weaponry here and the players here to really compete at a high enough level. I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. They don't have any margin of error. Like, that's the problem with this team right now. They 3-0 when they win a turnover battle, 0-5 when they don't. It's just that simple because you don't have any room for error. And Tom Brady realized that, whether he was in decline or not. He just realized these guys will never inflate me. I always have to do the inflating around here. And Cam Newton finds himself in a position where he can say, yeah, I'm going to own up to my issues. I'm going to own up to the fact that I have not been playing perfect football. But at the same time, I have to do my job and start to look around Cam Newton. I pointed out the receiving core issues. Let's point out the defensive issues. How about the fact that they're giving up 24 points a game? That's the most points a game allowed during the Belichick era. How about 137 rushing yards per game? That's the most rushing yards in a Belichick era. So even Tom Brady will find some difficulty winning when the defense is not performing up to standard. Cam Newton has had his issues, but the other side of the ball has had his issues as well.
If we're being real about this, fellas, Cam Newton's doubters are not purely basing their hate and their doubt and their vitriol towards Cam based off of football-related things. Cam is a good-looking dude. If this was like if this was rock and roll, he'd be Lenny Kravitz. Lenny Kravitz just turned like 80 years old, and he looks like he's 20. He got abs. He looks real good. He went out there. I wish I could be Lenny Kravitz if I was a man. He isn't that old. I'm just making a joke.
Stupid.
But Cam is that guy that everybody, like, you will look at, and you're going to measure yourself off of Cam. And you're not going to measure yourself off of how well he plays. You're going to measure yourself off of, man, like, do I look like that? Like, am I tall like that? No, you're not. You're not any of those things that Cam is checking off on the box. Cam is that guy that you wish, like, is that going to be my child as he grows up? Now, Stink, I know you've done well. You got great gene pool going with yourself there, Marcellus. But if we could both say, if I could write up and draw up in my wish box and my dream of what I want my kid to look like and be like, it'd be Cam, right? So that's where all of this hate is really coming
Oh, really?
from.
All the hate comes from him not looking like you, but looking like Lenny Kravitz. What the hell?
Yes, he looks the part after the games. He fits the mold. Like, did y'all see
nobody
look at his post.
Nobody cares how you look unless it's between the white lines. That dictates how they're going to evaluate you outside of that.
Line up all them doubters. Let's see what they look like.
Hey, no.
Let's see what they look like physically.
Line up
then I'll
the top 10 quarterbacks in NFL history and then look at them. That's my point. Ain't nobody tripping on how you look. Not all of those guys are GQ. Not all of those guys are GQ. Look, Cam Newton has never been more accurate. Forget about how good he looks. It's the fact that he's never been this accurate. This is a career high for him in completion percentage. 68.1 completion percentage. This is a guy you can build around once he gets comfortable in the offense. And we've been seeing him post-COVID last couple of weeks start to get more comfortable in the offense. You can't put it all on Cam Newton because Belichick didn't get his hands on Cam Newton till June 28th when he signed him. Then he signs him. He comes in late. Everything's virtual. You got a compromised training camp. And then you give him a plethora of undrafted wide receivers. Look at his top 3 targets this year, y'all. Crazy. Damiere Byrd, undrafted law firm Jacoby and Myers, and then a 34-year-old post-steroid Julian Edelman. That's who Cam Newton is playing with right now. It just is amazing that he won't get even a little bump of consideration or respect because of the assets or the lack thereof around him.
Well, to your point, on Monday Night Football, they put a graphic up, I believe, that I saw that said, Bill Belichick hasn't drafted a Pro Bowl player since 2013. 2013. I believe the Kansas City Chiefs have drafted 9 Pro Bowl players since 2013. So, I mean, the thing you love about football is it's a complete team game. And I think the thing I love is the complementary nature. Like, I can't be good at my job unless we as an offensive line are all good. We can't be good as an offense unless all 11 guys are connected. We can't really have explosive run game or run plays unless the wide receivers are willing to block. And the wide receivers can't catch a ball unless everybody's willing to do their job. And if we stink on the offensive side and turn the ball over, guess what? You're going to give up a lot of points on the defensive side. So I love the aspect of complementary football and the way it all ties together. That's why it's the ultimate team sport. And if you haven't drafted a Pro Bowl player since 2013, then Bill Belichick, the general manager, is letting down Bill Belichick, the head coach.
I love what you're saying there, Stink, and that it ties back to what I was saying. You may want to say it has nothing to do with looks, but it has everything to do with the perceived arrogance of what people think Cam Newton is. It's the way Cam carries himself, the way he does his interviews, the way he speaks on things. People look at it, and that what you just said, Stink, it plays a part. Can we honestly sit here and confidently say that we feel that continuity exists all the times with Cam and his relationship between his unit, within his receiving core, within the defense, the whole team dynamic? Sometimes you look at it and you have this preconceived notion of what you feel you think he is, and that's probably the furthest thing from reality and the truth. But that perceived arrogance, that perceived look, the way he looks after games, the way he looks on the field, people doubt him and people put extra weight on Cam because of those preconceived, inaccurate notions of who they think he is.
That's interesting you say that, because in a situation where you have Belichick and his dynasty, and will he be able to resurrect it this year or going forward, he becomes Teflon in the conversation of issues, as Stink was talking about. The fact that they haven't drafted Pro Bowl players of late, the fact that the defense is not playing up to standard. You can hear those numbers, you can see those statistics, and you still won't point directly at Bill Belichick because of all the rings and all the success. But then you look at Cam Newton and you're like, yeah, he's a former MVP, but of late he's been injured, he hasn't been consistent, and you got to go back a couple years for only a fraction of a season to see any form of that greatness. So it's amazing that when you have that tug of war, that seesaw effect. You don't look at Belichick with the issues. You look at Cam Newton. He's the scapegoat. He's the easier target to poke at. But if you start to dive a little deeper into the numbers, you can see them trending upward for Cam Newton. What Cam Newton needs is what Cam Newton's going to get next week. You need to have a great individual performance, a winning performance, and you need to do it against a formidable opponent. They play the Baltimore Ravens next week. He can answer every question about his game going forward if he has this type of performance and they get a W against the Ravens. We're going to see if that happens, and we're going to see if the critics have something to say after that game. Coming up at the top of the hour, we're not done with Cam Newton. I'll tell you why the experiment in New England is working. But first, Tom Brady reportedly has a lot of pull in Tampa. But I'll tell you if the Bucs gave him too much power. Next, speak for yourself. Acho dipped on his boy. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself. Tom Brady is coming off the worst loss of his career. But that's not it. The Boston Globe, I said Boston Globe, says Bruce Arians may have lost control of the team because Brady has more power in Tampa than he did with the Patriots. This includes adding Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski and even the playbook. The article added, quote, Brady gets to pick his own plays. Both Peyton Manning and Chris Collinsworth recently noted that the Bucs are now using many of Brady's favorite plays with the Patriots that previously weren't in Arians' playbook. Brady also gets total access for his trainer and body guru, Alex Guerrero. Damn, shots. Fox NFL analyst TJ Houshmandzadeh's in the building. But, LeVar, let's get it started with you, big dog. Have the Bucs given Tom Brady too much power?
Let's see. Arians' first year as a head coach. Y'all know the total? What is it?
What?
7-9.
Okay.
You know what their record is right now?
What?
6-3. You want to know the record before Arians got there?
What?
5-11. You want to know the year before? 5-11. He's already got more wins than before Bruce got there. Now he's one win away from what Bruce got his first year as the coach. So then I asked myself, if I brought in Tom Brady, the GOAT of GOATs, whose plays am I going to run out of whose playbook? If they are Tom's favorite plays, fools, why do you have beef with them running the plays that Tom Brady is most comfortable with weapons now? You bring in Gronkowski, Hall of Famer. You bring in AB, Hall of Famer. And you got a problem with him? I feel like Ice Cube right now. Somebody else take it, man. No, he don't got too much power.
Which Ice Cube? Jerry Curl Ice Cube? What we gonna lynch mob Ice Cube? Republican Party Ice Cube?
Well, the last one.
Y'all better stay off Ice Cube too, y'all. Y'all gonna have
Yeah, get up off my boy.
Man, this is crazy. I mean, as soon as I read this article, I had to go back and just make sure. I was like, yeah, it did say Boston Globe. And then I said, yeah, they are from Boston. Oh, a little jealousy, a little gel right here. Because why are you talking about Tom Brady in this respect? Like, yeah, Tom Brady's plays that he likes should be Bruce Arians' plays that he should consider.
Right.
Like, yeah, a 43-year-old that's still playing in the NFL need to be everywhere with his trainer and his body guru. Yeah, if he has input on personnel because he says, hey, there's a guy, he's like my buddy, like we hang out together, he stays with me. And oh, by the way, he's a future Hall of Famer and he's gonna come off suspension. Why don't we take a look at him? Like, I didn't see anything about this except an opportunistic time to take a shot at Tom Brady. They just lost a game. They just got beat down. It's okay. Why the character assassination that comes along with it? Let's not forget that Brady in 2003 played my Buffalo Bills and got smashed 31-0. You know what happened also in that same year?
They won the Super Bowl.
They won the Super Bowl. I got a couple other examples I could bore you with, but the point of it is, I don't get this world where when you find someone down, not only do you kick them, then you try to throw the dirt and the shovel on them in this moment. When this team can rebound like they did a couple of weeks ago. Remember after the Chicago game? And he didn't know what fourth down was? And all of a sudden they come back and they spank the Green Bay Packers and they're on top of the world. And here we go again as the world turns. To me, the character assassination is what got to me.
For me, it's why would you even write the article? We all on the same page on this. Everybody knows this. Saturday night, the quarterback meets with the offensive coordinators. You tell me which plays you like. You tell me which plays you don't like.
Right.
Oh, I really like this. Oh, okay, we're going to feature this a lot, Tom. We might run it out of different formations, But if this is what you want, this is not just Tom Brady. This is every single quarterback in the league. Now, when the Bucs were so ecstatic and happy that they got Tom Brady, guess what came with that? Alex Guerrero. That was a condition. That was basically negotiated without being if you want Tom Brady to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, Alex Guerrero is part of that. Oh, let's go to AB. I think we all can agree if Chris Godwin and Mike Evans hadn't been in and out of the lineup, they probably would not have signed AB. Like this guy, the Boston Globe, whoever wrote this, like shame on you, bro. You know good and well he had these same luxuries in New England. It just wasn't talked about as much. Tom Brady is that dude. And even if he wasn't, he's a starting quarterback, and you're going to have some say in what plays you like and what plays you don't like. I don't know what dude is thinking about that wrote this article.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. They act like Tom Brady isn't fourth in the entire NFL in passing touchdowns. Oh, with Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, and Aaron Rodgers. So he's on pace right now for 35 touchdown passes. That'd be his highest total since he led the league in 2015. With 36. So Tom Brady is out there doing what Tom Brady needs to do. Yeah, there's been some inconsistency at times. Basically, when you play New Orleans, that's the only thing you can really point at in the Chicago close loss. But it's his first year in this system. That's why him and Bruce Arians are trying to share plays, things he's comfortable doing because he didn't have an offseason as normal. He didn't have the same training camp as normal. So he needs to get these things done and go with the learning curve on the fly. So I look at him outside of those Saints games, which he's admitted, hey, I struggle against the Saints so far this year. He's 6-1, 18 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 106 passer rating. That passer rating's the highest it's been since his MVP season. So if you want to take shots at Tom Brady, take a shot at all of Tom Brady, but you can't. But don't try and kick him when he's down in just 1 week.
You know, another thing when you start talking about giving too much power, like when you start to try to define what that represents, you know, AB would have been there early on. If that were the case. As you mentioned, TJ, there's been injuries to this receiving core, and you're trying to keep the momentum building for what it is that you've been doing. He played poorly in this last game. It was poor, all right? So to have the opportunity to say you've given a guy too much power, I don't think that there's a translation of you've given him too much power to you had a poor showing against a divisional opponent, which, by the way, was kind of is a fringe team. So they got some get right and some get back against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But let's look a little further down the line. Let's take a look at how they performed after this game. We saw how they performed after the first time they played against New Orleans. They responded well. Let's see how they respond after this. To talk about power versus a poor performance, is poor performance on the person who wrote they've given him too much power.
If before the season started, you told Bruce Arians and the Tampa Bay Bucs, you'll go 11-5, they sign up for that before the season. 7-9, 11-5, we're in the play. That's right in reach. They can still do that. What's going to need to happen is they need somebody to take care of the Saints for them because it's evident they can't do it themselves. So somebody beat the Saints for the Bucs, and we might see the Bucs playing in February. And that's just what it's going to be. They can't, for some reason, they can't compete with the Bucs, and with the Saints, and that's okay. Somebody's just take care of them for them. 11-5, 12-4, it's still in reach. And again, come on, guy, don't write no article like this. That's sour grapes that he's not with you anymore.
Yeah. Oh, bitter X. I got a few of them. I know about it. I don't even check my DMs when I see their name pop up. Nah, because I know you got them sour grapes still. Stop playing. You know what? TJ just described what happened with the Kansas City Chiefs. Why are they the Super Bowl champs in part? Is because someone took care of their arch nemesis. Someone took care of their kryptonite. Go back to 2018 where they lost to the New England Patriots in the regular season and in the AFC Championship game, even though they should have won because of the offside D4. But they lost that damn game. And then the next year, all the articles are written. Kansas City Chiefs are coming. They're emerging. But you always got to go through Foxborough. You always got to go through the Patriots. Oh, no, you don't, because the Tennessee Titans went up there and handled that business. And then what was left for the Kansas City Chiefs? No New England Patriots, but those same Tennessee Titans. They call it traffic cops. Somebody else takes care of your business and redirects the team that you don't necessarily want to see. But how quickly they forget in Boston about these Tampa Bay Bucs. How quickly they forget, as LeVar pointed out, they were 7-9 last year and needed a quarterback that could take care of the football, but also put up some numbers as Tom Brady's doing. And how quickly they forget that, yeah, they beat the Packers and they beat the Raiders, two good teams, by 28 points and 25 points. All I'm saying is if you're going to take your shots, those are some weeks where you can take your shot as well, and I can understand the article. But when you take it after a loss, when he's won more than he's lost, I really don't understand where you're going with it, LeVar. You shake your head. What's up?
No, I'm saying that you got to smell something stink when you take a shot at the moment in time that this person took a shot.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about taking the shot at the GOAT. Oh, you got to keep yourself in check when those moments come up. All right, guys, let's keep it going. Coming up, the Cowboys have lost 4 straight, and Ezekiel Elliott could be a reason why. Yeah, I said that. I'll tell you if he should be on the bench next. Speak for yourself. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself. Cowboys are 2-7 this season, and a lot of eyes are on Ezekiel Elliott. He hasn't passed the 100-yard mark once this season, and he's fumbled 4 times. And his backup, Tony Pollard, had more yards in Sunday's loss with half the carries. So, TJ, starting with you, should Ezekiel Elliott still be starting for the Cowboys?
Absolutely, he should still be the starter. His body of work has proven that. Now, Tony Pollard should be given more opportunities. Now, since week 7, Zeke has 49 carries. He's only averaging 3.2 a carry. Tony Pollard has less than half of that, 24. He's averaging 4.7 yards a carry. So that shows you he should be given more opportunity. But you can't bitch Zeke. Dak isn't playing the offensive line. The Dallas Cowboys in general, they're just not very good this year.
No.
You cannot bench him because Tony Pollard had a good game against Pittsburgh. Now, what you can and you should do is give him more opportunity. If this trend continues, he will get more opportunity. But I'm not benching Zeke the entire year. I don't care what Tony Pollard does. He will just get more opportunity than he's been given. Wow,
you just said the fatal words. I don't care what Tony Pollard does. Hey, I care what Tony Pollard does because I know if you're Ezekiel Elliott making an average salary of $15 million a year, expectations are high. So there's always a problem on my team when you make more money than plays, and that's what's happening to Ezekiel Elliott right now. So you want to go the whole body of work argument? Okay.
Hey, because of what you just said, what he's making, you know they ain't taking him off that starting lineup ever.
Yeah, well, look, the business side kicks in.
That's the bigger point.
Well, the dead cap and when his cap number, that's 2022. I give you that. He won't be off the team. But benching him, it's time to bench Ezekiel Elliott. I'm going to use your words against you as I already started, TJ. Let's look at Ezekiel Elliott's body of work. And, boy, is this the Cowboys' conundrum. Look at Ezekiel Elliott in regression. If you start at the bottom, you actually see a guy that you're like, yeah, let's pay him $15 million a year. Then you get to 2017, 2018, 2019 to where we are right now. The worst numbers in terms of rushing yards per game and rush average. This is career body of work, as TJ likes it. 39th ranked amongst 48 running backs this season. You making the most and you're 39th ranked? So, look, I'm just simply going to say this. I hope you got another argument for me other than, hey, he's so expensive, we got to keep him. Yeah, keep him on a roster, but keep him in the starting lineup. LeVar, I ain't trying to hear that.
Well, the interesting thing is I am going to echo that his price tag does say that he's the franchise player. And as the franchise player, there's a couple different things that you got to think about doing if your franchise player is at that position of the running back or receiver. Not so much a quarterback, but definitely like a linebacker or a running back receiver. You got to either get rid of them, cut your losses, try to trade them, or you got to play them. But you can't just bench your franchise player.
Why?
You got to make an example of the situation, because here's the thing. He did so well at some point in his career that he was awarded the richest deal for the position. He showed, in fact, I think he won. Didn't he win the rushing title the year before he got the deal? I think it was something to that effect. The bottom line here is that Ezekiel Elliott's body of work, as TJ mentioned, did set him up to be in the position he's in now. But he has done nothing since he's gotten his contract. And it's unfortunate that you're going to be based and weighed and measured off of what you're making because your play led to that. But you got to play him. You got to play him because you paid for him, and you got to hope that you're going to get an ROI or bust before bust. And that's just how I look at it.
Hey, man, look, I'm going to use my experience because my experience is my expertise. Quiet as kept. I was a franchise player at one time because of how much they paid me. I don't know if they built the franchise around me, but they paid me the most. Hey, and I think maybe for you too, LeVar, let's be real about this. Here we go. So when you get paid the most, guess what? They expect the most. And then whenever you get off of that expectation level, and I had a year where the next year after I got paid, I balled. And then the next year after that, I balled just a little less. And then there was that little whisper like, hey, let's not run that back the same way. Let's get back to old Wiley. And I ran it back again that way. You know what they said? Despite you making the most, we got to get you up out of here. Look, I got cut before because you make so much money, but you're not making as many plays. So I'm not special. Ezekiel Elliott won't be special in this situation either. If you look at Ezekiel Elliott, this is the biggest concern that you have to have in terms of what he's doing. One, there's a guy on his same team that just seems like he has more juice. Whether you can say it's the hamstring of Ezekiel Elliott, but it's not just that simple. TJ, it's not just this one game or since week 7. Let's get down and let's look at Tony Pollard compared to Ezekiel Elliott since 2019. Uh-oh. Look at these names and look at their yards per carry and their rushing average. Tony Pollard's on the list with guys that we know of like a Dalvin Cook, a Nick Chubb, Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry. I don't see Ezekiel Elliott's name on that list. Oh, because he's 30th ranked and we ain't got that big a screen to scroll down all the way to Ezekiel Elliott. The point is, look, somebody on your team is tilting. If on my team somebody was getting more sacks than me and then making less money than me, it's only a amount of time, TJ, before they like, yo, you're going to have to get up out of here, Mr. Franchise.
That's true.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe I've heard one Marcellus Wiley say this on this show.
Uh-oh, here we go. Receipts.
You might have great stats, but if I get more plays, I'm still going to give you the same stat. That doesn't mean I'm going to give you better production. I've heard you say that.
Yeah, that's
now,
real.
this is what needs to happen. And what I said earlier, you give Tony Pollard more opportunity to see. If I give you more opportunity, you can continue to still produce at the clip you're producing at. And if that's the case, you will get more opportunity. Now, Zeke will still remain the starter, but his opportunities will become less and less because we're continuing to give Tony Pollard these opportunities. And not only is he's producing at the same clip when he was getting less opportunities. And so that's what you want to see. If I give you 20 carries, are you still going to average 4.7 a carry? As opposed to if I give you 10. So it's really, can he produce at this same clip with more opportunities being given to him? That's what I want to see. And I know Zeke can, and that's why he's going to be my starter.
I agree with that because here's the thing about it. He has been productive. But now my question is, because you have so much talent on the outsides of that offense, is he productive because the attention shifts to, we're looking at the receiving core. We're looking at the passing game. We're not looking at Pollard being the guy that's going to make a difference in this game. And unfortunately for Tony Pollard, that's true. Tony Pollard has not been the difference in them winning and losing because they're obviously losing. So I would venture to say that you can't justify Tony Pollard's success based off of saying that Tony Pollard has done so well, we have to sit Ezekiel Elliott down. Because, quite frankly, he might be doing well because the attention and focus being put on Ezekiel Elliott could be the reason why Tony Pollard is continuing to have these pockets of success on the field.
But look, it's not just me saying this. Troy Aikman, basically, in the most politically correct but gangster way he could say it as being a Cowboys ambassador, was like, one, what the hell y'all doing paying running backs? And two, you expect them to stay healthy and productive through all these years when you can find anybody to go play the running back position. And I'm not going to say anybody, but look, Terrell Davis was a 6th rounder and helped John Elway get over the hump. The Shanahans, as Aikman pointed out, the Shanahans been doing this for 25
Always
years.
Running back
getting anybody. They got some great running backs too, but they also have had some guys before, and you're like, huh? How this guy get it? Jeff Wilson comes to mind this year. I watched Jeff Wilson run up and down the field on the New England Patriots. Jeff Wilson had 17 carries, 112 yards, 3 touchdowns, and makes $500,000 a year. And Zeke has not been over 100 yards this year and is making $15 million a year. How about this? Zeke has not been over 100 yards, but twice in the last 17 games for the Dallas Cowboys, which they're 5-12 in those games. Let me kill y'all with some names and some stats right here. Oh, my God. 28 NFL players. I ain't even say running backs. Players have had 100-yard-plus rushing performances this year.
Couple quarterbacks in there, too.
Not Zeke. Yo, I am looking at Lamar Jackson, okay, kind of expected, and Kyler Murray have had 100-yard rushing performances, but not the highest-paid running back in the game. What? 7 teams have 2 players. 7 teams have 2 guys on the same team that have done it, but no Ezekiel Elliott. So I got to send a message to Zeke. I understand this sounds a little extreme, but Bill Parcells did this when I was a Dallas Cowboy. He looked at Eddie George. I think Eddie George was in his 10th year, and he didn't like something about Eddie George. I don't know what it was, training camp, whatever. He didn't give him the right gift in all season, but he didn't like Eddie George like that. And Eddie George had a consecutive starting streak that Bill Parcells broke in week 1. Had Eddie on the bench for the first play and then let him go out there to just break the streak. Why? Just to send a message. I need to light a fire under you. What greater message? Forget about the number of carries, just the game to start. And Ezekiel Elliott outside his comfort zone. Because right now, he's outside of his playing and the zone that they're paying him at. Something needs to wake him up because obviously keeping things status quo won't work.
You know, one thing that was explained to me when I was playing the game was, again, I think I said this on the show before, good is when you can walk up to the table and sneak up on people and take food off of their plate. Great is when they know that you're there, you come in to get the food, and you still can walk up on them and grab the food and take the plate, right?
Yeah.
They know Ezekiel has been really good. This is a moment in time for Ezekiel to prove that he's great. And those who have transitioned into from being good to great have been able to find a way to still produce even under the most extreme situations. I mean, Barry Sanders, who I'm a big fan of, is one that really comes to mind when I think about at the running backs position. Or even if you want to look at Jerome Bettis, because Jerome Bettis, in a lot of ways, even though he's bigger than what Ezekiel Elliott is, if you are a fan of the game, their running styles are a lot the same. It's very powerful. It's explosive. It's quick. And Jerome Bettis transitioned into a style of running that suited his style of running with the team that he was playing for. It seems as though Ezekiel Elliott is being tasked with a situation here where he has to find an identity for his running style that's going to fit his current situation with the team that he's playing on. And that's going to dictate if he can transition from being a good back to a great back.
Now, we have to be careful with this. Earlier in the season, the Cowboys are having a disappointing season. What was starting to happen? Oh, man, the coaches don't know what they're doing. They're not giving us the right information. Depending on the type of sway that Zeke has in his locker room, they bench him, they can completely lose a lot of players depending on his voice if he doesn't handle this the right way. And so that's another reason why you have to be careful. And I don't think Mike McCarthy wants to go down that road. They've already talked about the coaching and what they do or don't do as a staff. You do this and he doesn't take kindly to it, you could possibly lose some players that you don't want to lose.
Yeah, that's a great point. But I also got to look at the flip side of this. And I'm like, Zeke, you had a hamstring, right, last week? That's why you couldn't go in 6th gear? Well, then rest your hamstring in your sorry butt right now because I'm not liking it. Look, you can hide behind that. You're like, no, we're taking care of him. You know, we got to do load management to make sure Ezekiel's here for this hopefully stretch
Maybe
run.
that eat tattoo meant something different than on the field.
Yo,
you know what I mean? Maybe that hamstring.
You got to check the body fat because I don't know. Zeke don't look the same to me. I don't know about y'all, but we all know the best way to send a message to a player is not even through their wallet. As much as it feels that way, once you get your contract, I remember getting fined before, and I was like, oh, whatever. They take the money out before I even get it, so I didn't feel that pinch, right? But if coach walks up to you and say, hey, come here. Sit right here.
Write that check.
I want you to sit right here. And when the game starts, you still sit right here.
Oh, yeah.
Benching will pinch you harder than sometimes taking the digit away from you in the wallet. Yeah. So if I'm coaching the Cowboys right now, Mike McCarthy, I don't know, big dogs. Time to send a message to Zeke. And the only way they'll really affect them and hurt them, bench them. Coming up, the Chiefs are showing why they're the defending champs. But I'll tell you why the Bills are a legit threat in the AFC. Next, Speak for Yourself. I tell you, it hurts more than anything. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself. The Bills, my Bills, had a big win over the Seahawks Sunday behind Josh Allen's 415 passing yards and 4 total touchdowns. Buffalo was now 7-2, woohoo, near the top of the AFC behind the undefeated Steelers and the defending champion Chiefs. So, Mark, Stink, what's up? You're up first. Are the Bills a legit threat in the AFC? Say yes. Say yes.
Are they a threat? Absolutely. Do I think they're behind probably the Steelers or behind the Kansas City Chiefs? Yeah, I do believe that. I mean, it's really hard, obviously, to put up those kind of numbers and still give up. I think they gave up 7 sacks in that game to a team in Seattle that can't rush the passer. So, I mean, it's going to be hard to go into the playoffs doing those type of things and not running the ball and not being balanced. But I think that you look at Allen and what he was able to do, accomplish in that game, like you said, 415 yards passing. That's pretty amazing. I still think there are things that they have to look at, not only rushing the football, but also their defense. They gave up almost 400 yards passing to Russell Wilson, which happens quite a bit. They turned him over. I think they turned Seattle over 4 times. But I will say this, they have that ability, and Josh Allen as a quarterback has that ability to not only beat you throwing the football, but he is a dynamic runner, a dynamic athlete. It makes them a contender, but I still think they're in 3rd place in the AFC, probably behind the Steelers and behind the Kansas City Chiefs for sure.
Yeah, they're a legit threat. Think about it. They're in the conversation. You would not be shocked if they were to beat the Steelers or even the Chiefs. You'd be a little surprised, but you wouldn't be shocked. But look, they played each other this year already, and we saw how that went. The Kansas City Chiefs won that ball game. But watching the Buffalo Bills against the Seattle Seahawks, I found a way that they can dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs. This is how you have to look at it. How do you get Patrick Mahomes off his game? Good luck with that. But in his 2 worst performances this year, which were against the Raiders in that loss, and in the overtime game win against the LA Chargers, we saw pass rush have its effect on Patrick Mahomes, like every other quarterback, but pass rush especially in that game. Those are the only 2 games this year where they had double digits in hurries against Patrick Mahomes, and those are the games he struggled the most in. So now you can understand what's the formula. Just get to Patrick Mahomes like any other quarterback. But look at what the Buffalo Bills were able to do against the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson had the most knockdowns this year of any quarterback, 16 times. Not hurried, knocked down, like, oh, I got to get back up. And that's what the Buffalo Bills pass rush was able to do in this game that they weren't able to do against the Chiefs in the first game. If they can keep that pass rush going with the offensive weapons that they have and Josh Allen playing at a comparable level to even Russell Wilson, who's in the MVP conversation, now you got something there. But you can't just focus in on the offense. You got to look on the defense, especially up front.
I like what they're doing on offense as well. I do believe that they can run the ball. I agree with Mark on that. They can run it a little better. But look at this team and the way it's configured. They have a runner in Josh and Josh Allen. I look at them from a defensive standpoint and from an offensive standpoint, and this is a physical team. And I think the physicality of what they're bringing to the table is really making a difference for them in winning these games. That reminds me of those 2 high-end AFC North teams. We didn't mention the Ravens, but to me, outside of the Chiefs, yes, the Bills are a threat because they are much like those 2 AFC North teams and the Steelers and the Ravens. Why? Because even though their defense did give up some yardage against the Seahawks are going to air it out. They're going to throw the ball and they're going to get yards. But they played defense well enough to give their team the opportunity to win the game. And that was what's important. And then you also have to take into consideration is that they are finding ways to wear teams down and win the games. Now, they have shown inconsistencies, and that concerns me a little bit. But when you look at the way this team is built and the way it's configured, they could compete against the Kansas City Chiefs team, and they could do it really, in my opinion, if they got another opportunity at them, they could possibly do it in a very, very emphatic form and fashion.
Yeah, look, on paper, it's kind of weird that we're even trying to build up this argument because the Chiefs have a better offense and they got a better defense. I know that Buffalo's defense was expected to be better this year, but not so much this year as in comparison to last year, where now they're 18th ranked. But if you can talk about what they can do defensively, especially in those critical moments and money down situations, that's where they can make their hay. You go against Patrick Mahomes in that offense, you have to hold your breath for 60 minutes because you know he can strike anytime and anywhere. But Josh Allen, who I've been on his bandwagon since hello, has the arm talent and also has the mobility to go out there and really pose a threat in the off-scripted plays. And that's the toughest thing when you're playing defense. I look at this Kansas City Chiefs defense this year, and they're ranked higher than the Buffalo Bills at 13th. But when you get off-script, when you get a guy who's buying time with his legs and still can dart you down the field, that's when you pose problems that are not in your traditional form. So I don't think the Buffalo Bills will run up on the Kansas City Chiefs and say, here we come, and defeat them. But there is a surprise element to this team. And if the Kansas City Chiefs are just one notch off their A game, I think the Bills could come get them.
You know, I went through Kansas City. I went through all their losses for the last 2 years. And the one thing that was a consistent when beating Kansas City was possessing the ball, churning out first downs, whether it was through running the ball, whether it was through passing the ball, it didn't matter. I remember the Chargers had 29 first downs against it, so most of them passing. And it's about eliminating Patrick Mahomes' possessions with the ball. If you can take it from a 12-possession game down to an 8-possession game, you're still gonna be in a shootout. You got to score where you possess the ball, but at least it gives you an opportunity. And I think the thing that you said that was interesting to me, I've always believed in kind of the 70-30 rule. You guys both played defense. I played offense, meaning that 70% of the time we're on script. And I want to be on script, right? I want to be in second down and, in 5 to 6. I want to be in third down and 3-. I want to be on script and churn first downs and do those things. The thing that sets Josh Allen apart is if he can consistently be on script in that 70% range, in that 70% of the time, that 30% when you're off script, when you're playing schoolyard, when you're playing those unscripted plays, he's got the ability through his legs and through his motion and through his arm talent to keep you churning first downs, to create at the line of scrimmage, you having to make a decision coming off your coverage and then throwing it or staying on your coverage and letting him churn a first down by running the football. And that's what makes him exceptionally dangerous. So if he can stay true to playing great football, which he did on script, then those off-script plays really become difficult for a defense.
When I look at what took place between the Chiefs and the Raiders, it just made me start thinking about two things. One is don't go into the game already defeated. And I think that this Bills team has a DNA where they're scrappy guys. You can tell by the DNA of how this team goes out and they compete that they're not going to be afraid of competing against the Kansas City Chiefs. That was the first thing. The second thing is when the floodgates opened up in that game against Kansas City when they were playing Las Vegas, the Las Vegas Raiders, they opened up and it was a flood. So to me, when I look at them being a threat and a potential danger to the Kansas City Chiefs, they became a threat when Las Vegas had the type of success against them that they did, because every team that is built in a way that is in that form or fashion where they can bring a physical element to the game against that Kansas City team without having any type of trepidation or fear going into that game of what Kansas City will do. Like, oh my gosh, when is Pat going to strike? When is he going to do it to us? No, we're going to hit Pat in the mouth. And I think that that's the mentality that these teams that we're talking about that are threats to the Chiefs have, and the Bills are one of those teams.
Yeah, man, let's not overthink this. Let's go back to Pop Warner. I know I used to do this all the time when we had to play against a good opponent later in the schedule. I'd be like, who they play? Oh, we beat them. We gonna beat them. And you used to always do that little mathematical
Don't do that.
question. You're right.
Don't do that.
Yeah, because you're the Buffalo Bills. You're like, oh, we beat the Raiders, and the Raiders beat the Chiefs. So guess what? We're gonna beat the Chiefs next time. Ooh, I don't know about that. Because if you're the Chiefs, especially on defense, you had your best game against these Buffalo Bills. Talking about 206 total yards, 122 passing yards for Josh Allen. Yuck. 84 rushing yards as a collective effort from the running game. Yuck. So something has to be fixed. I know the pass rush could try and neutralize Patrick Mahomes. Good luck with that. But you can't put up that offensive performance and think you're going to play in a shootout against Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, the other thing I think you have to really consider is think about what happened to this team last year. Last year, through about 10 games, they were the worst defense in football. And then they flipped the script, and they were as good as any defense in football through the last 6 games and through the playoffs. They were exceptional. Well, the playoffs, they gave up some points, but when they needed to get stops, they found a way to get stops to win games where they were double-digit deficit players. The other thing is they've had a bunch of offensive linemen really, miss games and miss time, and so they have had a little bit of a shuffle there. And I think the thing that everybody gets confused about, they think the Chiefs are about, hey, we got to get in a track meet with the Chiefs. And I'm sorry, you're just not going to win a track meet with the Chiefs. They're just so talented. But what they do is when you watch them on tape, when you watch them on film, they get 5 guys out in the pattern about 80% of the time. And to do that, you're in 5-0 protection, meaning your 5 guys have got to hold up. And their 2 offensive tackles have been able to hold up in those situations to allow Patrick Mahomes the time to get the ball. I mean, I don't care who you are on defense. You can't cover the receivers they have for over 2.5, 3 seconds. They're going to be open. And so if they can hold up in those situations, even when they break down, Patrick Mahomes is so gifted. He makes somebody miss, escapes to the outside, and then they're just eviscerating you in the passing game. So that to me is one of the big keys. This team is in cruise control right now. I'm watching them. They're in cruise control because they know they're that good. And they're one of the few teams I've ever watched on a consistent basis that can flip the switch and just go, okay, let's go into overdrive here at the end of the game and let's get us a win. And they're that good. So they are still the cream of the crop to me, but the Bills are a darn good football team.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch the Chiefs know that they're that good and watch the Bills who don't know how good they can be as we watch them step by step go through their growing pains. Let's go back to last year in the playoffs watching the Buffalo Bills basically control that game and should have won that game against the Houston Texans. But the last part of that game, the latter of the fourth quarter, obviously went the wrong way. Then they had the hiccup this year against Kansas City, but they find themselves still at 7-2 with a lot of upside. Enough time and enough upside that maybe they could be looked at on the same level as the Chiefs. We'll see. Coming up in our big story, Cam Newton led the Patriots to a win last night. I'll tell why the experiment in New England is working. Next, speak for yourself. Emphatic right there. Welcome back. Acho will be back with us tomorrow. Come on, big dog. Let's do it. Let's talk about Cam Newton. He helped the Patriots snap their 4-game losing streak with a win over the Jets last night. Cam rushed for 2 touchdowns, bringing his total to 8 this season. But on the other side, he still hasn't thrown a touchdown pass since September. Earth, wind, and fire September. So, TJ, is the Cam Newton experiment working in New England? Ding, 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 ding.
When we talk sports, it comes down to 2 things: wins and losses.
Okay.
And it's not working because they're not winning. They're not winning enough games for it to work. This is going to be one of the worst seasons that the New England Patriots have had in 20 years. And so when you say, is the experiment working? Absolutely not. It isn't working. Now, Cam Newton, if you look at the New England Patriots, this is no disrespect to any of their receivers.
Oh, here comes the disrespect.
Yes, always.
Yes.
You can't, not one of their receivers would be a starter on any other team in the league. Not one. And so look what he's playing with. They don't have one receiver And yeah, Jacoby Myers, he had a great game yesterday, but he'd be a backup on every team in the league. And so he's not playing with a lot. He was playing well. He gets COVID. And since he's come back, he's just not the same. Now, last night, I thought he played a pretty good game.
Pretty good?
He didn't throw for any 27 for 35. That's a pretty good game, but you didn't throw a touchdown. You're a quarterback. I want you to throw the ball and throw for touchdown. He did get sign language, but wins and losses, that's what it comes down to. W's and L's, and they have lost a lot more than they've won, and so it cannot be a success at all.
I think it is successful. Now, top layer, we can have an argument. No disrespect, TJ, but here comes the disrespect, as we always say that. But if you look beyond that, underneath the surface, right under the surface, you can start to analyze this situation as a success. One, you have Cam Newton, who is late to this program, late to this culture, and hit the ground running. In those first couple of games, we were like, whoa. He dressed up the New England Patriots to a point we thought they were going to be something. And then we had to come to our senses in part because of COVID and how that derailed Cam Newton and the Patriots. But still, he made us imagine something that we knew that wasn't there with this Patriots roster. That's why Tom Brady's out the building. But in 3 of the Patriots' 5 losses, as you start to analyze, they were one-possession games. Interesting, close ones. Who did the Patriots lose to? Because we're looking at this record. They're 3-5. We know that they beat the Dolphins. That's a good team, 5-3. They beat the Raiders. That's another good team. What about the Jets? Whatever. Let's move forward to their losses. We ain't gonna talk about the Jets. They lost to the Seattle Seahawks, 6-2. Kansas City Chiefs, 8-1. Buffalo Bills, 7-2. Jimmy G with the 49ers, which is a completely different team. And then the only loss you can look at and be like, come on, y'all, is the Denver Broncos. Even them, 3-5, almost a 500 team. The point is, deep analysis into the situation says Cam Newton is doing okay for the circumstances. Now, go forward when they have $60 million in cap space next year. Go forward where they can have north of $80 million, depends on how they play the Stephon Gilmore contract situation. You can build around Cam Newton. And more importantly, Cam Newton could be in the building next offseason and learn the Patriot way. To me, this is a success.
Yeah, I agree with you, Marcellus, on this one. Unfortunately, I take the opposite side from what you're saying, TJ, in the sense that those coaches are looking at it the same exact way. Like, we got receivers here that wouldn't start on anybody else's team. What exactly do you want me to do?
They've always had those type of receivers.
But your system and your scheme was so cemented and so established that you could get away with it. And on the sneak, some of them dudes was really some dudes. If you go back to Troy Brown and Dave Patton and Gibbons and all those guys, you had some real receivers. They just weren't big name guys. So I won't always say they didn't have guys. Yeah, Deion Branch. I won't say they didn't have guys. They just turned into guys in the system. Amendola, even your dude Wes Welker. But what you don't have now this year is the confidence in what it is that's taking place with the guys you have out there on the field. And that's why I think this experiment has worked. They have to survive through this season. If I'm looking at Cam specifically as to what my reasoning behind him being a successful experiment versus a not successful one are really 2 things. One, is he picking up on the offensive scheme? Will we be able to open up this playbook and get those same results that we did with the guy before him or the backups to the guy before him when they played with Cam? And I think he checks that box off. 2 was the biggest question everybody had. Will he stay healthy? Will he be available?
Yes.
Can he make it through? We still got 8 more games to go, and the only reason why he's missed the game was because of his illness that we're all sitting here trying to sidestep and shake. So to me right now, I think it's been a success if you're judging it purely based off of what the potential of having Cam Newton on your team can be.
It's a success if you're Cam Newton. The experiment has gone well for Cam Newton. For the New England Patriots, they're used to winning. They're not used to being 3-5. Cam is looking like, I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part. But as a team, it's no. For Cam, yes. But New England, they're 3-5. There's no way this experiment is a great idea or it's done well when we're 3-5. I don't care who you've lost to. You got to win some of those games. You can. Oh, we lost to the Chiefs. They're 8-1. Oh, we lost to the Bills. They're 7. And you lost. You're 3-5. And so until you have a winning record, it has to be a failure. For Cam Newton.
But what quarterback do you bring in? But what quarterback do you bring in that gives them a different record than what they have right now? I only know one that could possibly have had one, and that's Tom Brady.
Other players. You bring in other players that can help Cam Newton. I like Cam Newton. He's done well. But for New England, when you're 3-5, and this is foreign territory for Bill Belichick, there's no way this has been a success. No way.
Look, man, it's a lot to ask of him. Like, I don't know how TJ evaluates. I would hate for you to be my school teacher because you don't take circumstances into play. Like, yeah, you just like, what you get? Oh, get out of here. You're never going to be anything in life. Like, you those type of teachers. Because, look, the day after losing a dynasty, they lost a dynasty.
Hey, y'all sound like Bill Belichick, though, with them excuses he was making. That's who y'all sound like right now.
Well,
like,
they're not excuses. They're actual reasons. You just got rid of Tom Brady, or he left, which is a GOAT. And then it's the day after a dynasty. Like, the day after my honeymoon, I wasn't worth a damn to anybody in this world. Like, today is Acho's birthday. When he comes back to the show tomorrow, trust me, he going to be mumbling, he going to be stuttering, he going to be a mess. Because guess what? Circumstances matter. This is a team that was wrecked by COVID, lost his GOAT, and is coming off the honeymoon of the dynasty.
Acho going to bring it. He going to bring his A game, though. He going to bring it. He going to bring his A game.
He may bring it, but it won't be delivered. It won't come out the same. You're not supposed to expect that after something so big that has occurred with the New England Patriots in transition. This is an entire organization, culture in transition. But TJ wants to say, hey, I don't give a damn. If the sun came up today, then I expect greatness every single day. That's not how it rolls.
I don't expect. You at least got to get me to 8-8. Maybe 7-9. Maybe
they may get to 8-8 though.
Maybe
they may get to 8-8. They may get to 9.
They may not. They may not as well. And so,
but even if they do,
I don't think that's based upon purely Cam not succeeding within the experimentation of bringing him there.
Thank you. That's what you need.
That's like to me. But that's the experiment. The experiment was to see if you could succeed with Cam. So if Cam is succeeding right now, then you would have to say the experiment of bringing Cam there, even though you're not winning games, was a success. So now all we have to do is add the other players that are going to go towards us having more team success, not just Cam success, but team success. Now, Cam just has to be willing to play ball and want to come back and be a part of it. I think that's where the complications of it could come in.
What amazing turn of events for Cam Newton, who was a late signing, June 28th. And then all of a sudden he hits the ground running to the tune of articles being written, contract extension for Cam Newton in the conversation because of what he did in Seattle and Miami. And now we find ourselves here saying it's not a success or it is a success. The point being it's fluid. But in that situation, if you're the New England Patriots, you're encouraged by Cam Newton, who's already picked up the majority of your playbook, but not all of your playbook and certainly not all of your culture in these few weeks. But if you're Cam Newton, do you really want to experience another organization, another playbook, another head coach next year? No. If you're Cam Newton, you're kind of glued to this situation to make it work going forward, which is going to help the Patriots. They could franchise him or they could give him an extension that will satisfy him. Maybe not wow him, but satisfy him and promise continuity, promise the loyalty that he's looking for, and promise an opportunity to become their franchise quarterback. But why would you, if you're Cam Newton, roll the dice again and say, I'm doing well here, but let me try it somewhere else just because I don't like our receivers? As Tom Brady used to do with these receivers, TJ, as you are a former receiver, he will blossom them into something. Why can't Cam Newton do the same thing?
Now, Cam, he's done that. Julian Edelman, his best career game. Not with Tom Brady, with Cam Newton.
Real.
Jacoby Myers had a career game yesterday. It's so much more than just Cam Newton. Again, Cam Newton has played fantastic. But when you lose more than you win, it is always a failure.
Here's the thing.
That's fair.
Here's one more thing. Fantastic's a little much. Like he only thrown 2 touchdown passes the whole year, but I get what you're saying.
His completion percentage, he's done well.
He's not the issue in New England in terms of focal point and the primary issue, but he did get away from himself. I think this is what happened. Cam Newton hit the ground running, little beginner's luck. And you know our coaches always say, don't get bored with the building blocks. Don't get bored with success. I think he took the playbook in and was like, nah, let me freak this. Let me flex. Let me show you what Cam Newton can do with this playbook. And then that playbook fought back. It was like, bro, stick to the script. Stay with the system. Do it the Tom Brady way. Give us a chance to go out there and win ball games in the fourth quarter.
Do it the Tom Brady way?
Yeah, yesterday.
That's so disrespectful.
Hey,
it's a prime example of that last night's game.
Yesterday was a boring game in terms of what I think Cam Newton wants to do with his abilities, but it was actually a winning game because he stuck to the New England Patriots way and their script. Coming up, Mike McCarthy continues to get votes of confidence from the Jones family. I'll tell you why his job should be safe. Next, Speak for Yourself. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself. Mike McCarthy's first season in Dallas isn't going as planned. The Cowboys are 2-7 with 4 different starting quarterbacks. Cowboys executive Stephen Jones was asked if McCarthy will be the coach in 2021, regardless of this season's outcome, and said, quote, absolutely, unequivocal. You're changing the culture. You change when you change the leadership. And certainly, we like stability. That's why we stayed with Jason Garrett for 10 years. And we know these things don't happen overnight in terms of when you turn things around. LeVar, should Mike McCarthy's job be safe regardless of how the season ends?
No, absolutely not. And I'm not sure or certain why they would take that posture on the response of a question like that, maybe just to make sure that you throw off any type of, chum going into the water so that the sharks don't circle around. But absolutely, you cannot ignore the fact if a coach has come in and the disruption or the lack of accomplishment is totally based upon the lack of belief in the coaching and the leadership of the staff, you can't just say we're going to move forward, because here's the difference between the pro ranks and any other level. If it's high school, you can get rid of the players and go in a different direction because of the amount of players you may have at that school. All right. If it's college, it's the same different. But in the pros, there are salaries connected to these players. And some of those players you're not going to be able to just get rid of because there's a culture change taking place. You're going to have to still keep a vast majority of those players. So when you say the culture change and the culture shock of bringing in a new guy, if that's leading to you playing this poorly, I don't know the difference between that culture that existed for the 10 years that Garrett was there and the culture that's coming with Mike McCarthy. But either way, it can't be considered perceived good and okay to move forward with.
Wow. He's definitely going to be there. His job is safe, and he's going to be there next year. Crazy. I didn't think you were the type to have a microwave mentality, LeVar, as much as you love
That's not microwave.
That's kind of fast. Microwave. That's kind of fast in the offseason.
It is fast.
Huh?
It's fast, but Marcellus, understand it from this perspective.
I'm listening.
It's not fast in the sense of if you've lost the locker room. Wins and losses, I'm not going to measure the success of the coach losing his job off of wins and losses. I'm measuring it off of if the players believe in that leadership and in that coach.
This team has been compromised. They don't even have their quarterback 1 or their quarterback 2, but they're playing better of late. So that's not losing the locker room. That's gaining the locker. No, it's not just one game. It's 2 games. Even the Eagles game, you got to give respect to how they were forcing turnovers. The defense started to show up. And you see the special teams is starting to affect how they play. All those things are positives when you're building a culture. It's not a microwave. You got to bake it. It takes time. Let's talk about the time it takes to make a cultural shift when you look at Mike McCarthy. Let me remind y'all who Mike McCarthy is, since maybe y'all can't see underneath the mask. This is who Mike McCarthy is, who inherited a team that was 4-12. And you know what he did the next year? Well, let's go 8-8. Okay, not a winning team, but you know what? We're an average team. Next year, 13-3. 6-10, people say, oh, see, I told you should have got rid of them before. Oh, 11-5, 10-6, win a Super Bowl. It's a cultural shift. It takes time. And you know who knows it takes time? Jerry
Who wears
Jones.
Quarterbacks?
Jerry
Who wears quarterbacks?
Jones. Huh?
Who wears quarterbacks in all of those years?
Dak Prescott, a guy who was on a career year, NFL record-setting year this year before injury.
What do you mean, so what? He had Brett Favre.
I'm just saying.
He had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and great. And how do you make those names? You allow somebody an opportunity to grow with them. That's why Jerry Jones will stick with Mike McCarthy going forward.
I agree that he's going to stick with Mike McCarthy. I mean, like how you change the culture when you don't have the power to change the culture?
Uh-oh.
Like, I mean, I don't care who the coach is.
There you go.
That ain't your point.
Why would you fire Mike McCarthy? You've never empowered him as the head coach anyhow. You never empowered Jason Garrett. Hell, you wouldn't empower Bill Parcells. So how the hell are you going to ever change a culture if the guy in charge of the organization has no power to change the culture? That's why the players are sniping in the media, and won't put their names on it, sniping at the coaching staff because they're crying to their owner because they know the owner has never empowered anybody within that organization. So if I snipe enough, maybe the owner will get rid of a guy that's being tough on me or being hard on me. I don't care who the coach is. That organization is dysfunctional because the owner is the GM who thinks he should do radio twice a week and talk to the media after every game. We used to have a thing when I was in Denver winning championships. Owners write checks, right? Coaches coach and players play. That's the way it needs to operate, and that organization doesn't operate that way. So I don't care who the head coach is. You can bring in any head coach you want. You're not going to empower the guy, so what the heck does it matter?
Interesting there.
Bang, bang.
Well, we're having a different conversation right now. You're talking about Jerry Jones historically, and now we're going to say how's that going to affect Mike McCarthy in the present.
Well,
how it's going to affect
Mike McCarthy's not getting fired, Marcel. I don't believe he's going to get fired.
He's not getting fired, and he shouldn't get fired. Like, what kind of precedent will we set? Oh, in a compromised COVID season, let's fire a first-year coach who's a Super Bowl champion coach. And then since you want to bring up quarterbacks, what has Aaron Rodgers won without Mike McCarthy? Yeah, sit over there quiet, Lamar Arrington.
He's come up closer than the Cowboys.
Look, this is Jerry Jones, who knows about patience, who knows that it takes time. Don't forget Jerry Jones when he purchased the Cowboys in 1989. What was their record? 1-15. Jerry Jones, look, you can't snipe the owner, but imagine if you could. That's the owner you would want to snipe. And Jerry Jones also knows that he's had coaches struggle and at least gave those guys 2 years. Chan Gailey, who was hovering around 500 or under 500 when you want to talk about Dave Campo. Dave Campo got 3 years, and his record was 15-33, and he still got 3 years with the Cowboys. Trust me, Mike McCarthy will be back to bake some more of this culture. LeVar, any words?
First of all, it said, should his job be safe regardless?
Yes, it should
Like,
be.
you guys are talking, he's going to have his job. I would stink on this one. He's destined to fail based upon the circumstances that he's been given. Although you're speaking as a former player who has an affinity for Uncle Jerry and all that stuff,
Why you say that?
Probably get cards during the holiday season.
Took care of
You're jumping out there so far. And the bottom line here is, as former players, the one thing you know for certain that you can take to the bank and cash in is if you lose the belief in your coach.
Oh, stop.
That now starts the beginning of the end. All I can do, I don't have no inside sources. I'm not Jay.
We
Shout
can tell.
out to Jay. I'm not, well, it is what it is, but I can use common sense and I can see through what's being said in the media and what could be perceived as reality versus perception and not reality. And I think there's a very real issue here. Look at the lack of production from your franchise player. You didn't pay what your possible franchise player was asking for, and now he's out hurt. Now you're looking at a team that's dysfunctional and can't find a way to winning consistently. I don't have to read between too many lines. I can look at their performances and come to a strong conclusion that if they have lost belief in that coach, then you have to take a good hard look on if you're going to continue to have him lead your team. Bottom line.
I mean, I don't know another coach that had to go through COVID and lose their first-string quarterback and their second-string quarterback and be judged so harshly. And if you talk about Ezekiel Elliott,
I'm not saying it's harsh.
Well, if you talk about Ezekiel Elliott, he was struggling with Jason Garrett. What you going to do, just keep firing coaches until Zeke can run the football again? That's not happening. True. So you can't go there. Look, it's the same thing that happens with players. When you spend and splurge on someone in free agency, you get a big-time free agent, and he comes there, and maybe he struggles in that first year. You don't put him on a chopping block block. You have a conversation with him. Hey, what you trying to do? How can we help you do it? Because next year we need to see more. That may be the conversation with Mike McCarthy, but he's not on the chopping block. Are you kidding me? He got big money. He's the coach of the Dallas Cowboys. He's going to get an opportunity to go out there.
I've seen it happen, Marcellus.
Win a level playing field.
I've seen it happen.
And then get it done. What? Oh, it happened to you? It didn't happen to coaches?
Marty Schottenheimer was one hell of a coach for us.
I played for him.
And would have turned our culture around and turned it into what it needed to be. And because there were enough old head players that did not want to do Marty ball, they got rid of him. I'm just saying, the power of players that don't believe in a coach, especially in an organization where the players have direct access to the ownership, will dictate what takes place with that coach.
Well, I played for Marty, and let me just say, any coach that still was running the Oklahoma drill in the 2000s, I wouldn't want to play for him either way. Wins or losses, but that's not what Mike McCarthy's over there doing in Dallas, so let's get that straight. Coming up, Tua has won 2 straight, and I'll tell you why he's ended all the audition talk. Next, Speak for Yourself. Good point on that, Marty. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself. Tua is now 2-0 as a starter after he threw 2 touchdown passes in the Dolphins' win over Kyler Murray and the Cardinals on Sunday. There were reports last week that Tua was auditioning for the starting job, but head coach Brian Flores dismissed all that talk. He even praised his rookie quarterback after the win. Listen.
And I thought he made a lot of plays for us, a lot of big plays for us, especially down the stretch when we needed it. The stage wasn't too big for him tonight. He played well.
So, TJ, did Tua end any audition talk on Sunday?
You know what's funny? I never thought it was an audition. There's no way you come your first start and you all week be aware of where Aaron Donald is, where 99. You know how nervous he was for that start with that guy coming at you all game long? And this is what happens. Burrow came out, played extremely well out the gate. Herbert, oh, you're going to start. Oh, really? Okay, I guess I'm ready to go. Plays extremely well and has played extremely well. So was the pressure of Tua comes out his first game against the Rams. He does not play well statistically. And so now it's like, man, Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow have played extremely well. Do we have the right guy? It was one game. Yeah, he played pretty good against the Cardinals this past Sunday, but it's going to be the remainder of the season, the body of work that he puts together. It's not going to be an audition. Tua would have been the first pick had he not been hurt. And so that talent just didn't disappear. That talent didn't go anywhere. It's still there. Give him some experience. Let him get his confidence. He's going to be fine. But I never thought it was an audition.
Never thought it was an audition as well. Never should have been a conversation. Never should have been a headline. Shouldn't have been national football news, but it was. He's the most efficient passer in college football history. And we're going to go after 1 week and say, hey, he's auditioning for his job. Are y'all kidding me? Look, it's funny, though. After that first possession, though, everybody was kind of like, hey, I don't know, dog. He got hit as hard as you can get hit in today's rules in terms of giving up that turnover as well. And what a horrible start. But since that start, oh my God, Tua has been getting it in. 64% completion percentage for 341 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. 103 passer rating. Yes, that's Tua. I've been high on Tua since I heard about him since high school. We all know that the lights weren't too big for him at Alabama. And now you can see that he can come in his second week. Like the first week, you got to shake off the cobwebs. They didn't even need him out there. The defense was so special in that game that Tua was just trying to say, oh, let me get acclimated to this speed, to this violence of this level of football. But boy, is he a quick learner, quick study, because in week 2, he showed not only can you count on me as a franchise quarterback, but count on me to go out there and win ball games against another young star in Kyler Murray. So never should have been a conversation, and I'm glad it's now a dead conversation.
Yeah, I completely concur. And, you look at Tua, and I think there's a couple things that happened. You look at what he did last week, and ultimately, like, you can see the fact that he understands pre-snap what he's looking at, post-snap what he's getting, where he wants to go with the football, looking off safeties, throwing layered routes, just all the things that look like veteran quarterbacking, in my opinion, watching him. But I think the thing that was amazing to me is week one, and I made a career on playing hurt. And week one, here's a guy coming in here, and I guarantee you, just watching some of the tentative nature that he played with, he wasn't sure. He's like, how is this hip going to respond? How is my body going to respond? And I think one of the things is you're putting yourself in that position, and you're going out there trying to go out and perform with this in the back of your head. The last time I got an opportunity to play, man, I got hurt, and it could have been career ending. And the other thing that you want to do is you want to be able to wake up Monday, and I've woken up Monday after playing, several days or a day after I had surgery, and thinking, how am I going to feel on Monday? Like, am I going to be able to walk? And you get out of bed and you're like, oh, I'm okay. I'm like, hey, man, this worked out. And I think what you saw on Sunday was the relief of what happened the week before. The complete and total relief that I'm okay, my hip's okay, I can hold up, I can get hit by Aaron Donald, and I can survive. And now you saw a guy that played freely without those concerns in his mind. And I thought he was pretty exceptional. I think he'll just continue to grow because his football acumen and what he is doing from that position are pretty incredible, like a lot of other young quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's great testimony there. I'm also a guy that was injury prone and had to play injured a lot. And it's interesting. It's one thing to have the ability physically and mentally to do something, but then it's another thing to trust that you're able to do those things on the field and respond to it the next day, the next week. So if you look at the Miami Dolphins, who haven't won this division since 2008, and they're off to their best start, 5-3 since 2014, you finally found your franchise quarterback you've been waiting on. You can build around Tua. Coming up, Lamar Jackson set a career mark Sunday, but he's still being criticized and hated on. And I'll tell you why. He deserves more respect. Next, Speak for Yourself. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself. Lamar Jackson started off slow Sunday against the Colts, but he was a perfect 10 for 10 with a touchdown run in the second half. Lamar has been criticized for his drop in offensive statistics from last year's MVP season. But he's now 25-5, tying Dan Marino for the best start by a quarterback in the Super Bowl era. So, Mark, does Lamar Jackson deserve more respect on his name?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I think ultimately when you look at the quarterback position and what he's done is amazing, right? It's absolutely amazing. But when you look at that position, ultimately you have to be able to win from the pocket. And I'm not talking about one-on-one throws because you run the ball so exceptionally well and you flag out a pay action and you get a little seam route down the middle that's one-on-one, or you get a crossing route that's one-on-one because of the way you run the ball. I'm talking about operating a team from the pocket when you're behind, bringing a team back in, throwing layered routes, throwing route combinations, either strong or weak, being able to operate in those conditions until he shows you that he can do that on a week-to-week basis. Hey, I know he can operate when they're ahead. I know he can operate when they're in 3rd down and 4 all the time. I know he can operate when they're pounding you in the running game. But we've seen 2 playoff games where they got behind and he had to throw them back into it, and that's not something right now, I think, from a skill set that he possesses at a high enough level. I don't know that, I'm not saying that he'll never get there, but right now that's not his game. And until you can do that, I think that's how you eventually are going to have to win, especially come playoff time.
To answer the question, I say no. And I say, how much more respect can you give a guy that unanimously won the MVP?
Yeah.
I mean, that's all the respect in the world. All the kids that are playing football now growing up, they want to be like Lamar Jackson. And statistically, is he playing as well as he played last year? No, you can point to so many different things. Marshall Yanda, he retires. Ronnie Stanley gets hurt. They ran a lot of 3 tight end packages. Hayden Hurst is no longer there. And so it's just an adjustment on the way offensively they're going about things. He'll make that adjustment. He's a great player, but deserve more respect. When you win MVP unanimously, I don't know what more anybody can do. He will adjust because he's a great player. And once he adjusts, people will adjust to him. So it's an evolution. He'll keep evolving, and leagues and teams will try to adjust to what he's doing. But I just don't see how a guy that is played as well as Lamar, when his last year's season, I think people thought that was the floor. It's not the ceiling, but it's closer to the ceiling than it is the floor because the year he had was remarkable.
Hold on, TJ. We're going to have to fight right here. Now, you made a great point saying how much more respect can you get than being one of the only 2 unanimous MVPs in NFL history. I give you that. And I understand that success, you know, this is kind of what comes with it. Criticism is the cost of praise. We get that. That said, there's one thing when you're successful and people hate on you, you're like, yeah, that's the cost of it. But when they doubt you, that's when you're like, hey, dog, chill out. You can hate all you want, but the doubt? Lamar Jackson is playing comparable to what he played last year. Completion percentage, only 1% off. Touchdowns to interception ratio, only 1 fewer interception this year, so that's actually a positive. Passer rating, exactly the same. And then rushing touchdowns, he's a couple off, but the same amount of wins and losses as last year. So he's basically on pace for a unanimous MVP campaign of last year. But we got bored with that. We got bored with that electricity. We got bored with his success. But we did see him finally evolve. As Stink pointed out, he was 0-6 in games that he trailed at halftime until last week. We're watching him now finally come back. And that's something that's crept into everybody's head, especially his teammates like, hey, if we get down, I don't know if Lamar can do it. So that's another way up the mountain for this team that's trying to meet and reach the ultimate goal of a Super Bowl championship. The evolution of him, slow growth. I'm looking at Lamar Jackson in that way. So put some respect on someone who's trying to do it just a slightly different way than the MVP year of last year. Coming up, Patrick Mahomes is playing like an MVP right now. I'll tell you why he's in the driver's seat for the hardware next. Speak for yourself. Welcome back. Uncle Jimmy took the day off without your bums. So let's move to KC and Patrick Mahomes, who is only trailing Russell Wilson in the MVP race, according to Fox Bet. Mahomes is coming off a 4-touchdown performance Sunday and has thrown 25 touchdown passes this year with only 1 interception. Magic Johnson gave his endorsement to Mahomes, tweeting, without a doubt, Patrick Magic Man Mahomes is, without a doubt, MVP of the NFL. So, Mark, is Mahomes in the driver's seat without a doubt for MVP?
I don't know about without a doubt. I mean, what Russell Wilson has done has been pretty incredible, considering the fact that defensively they're the worst defense in football, I believe, statistically. And you know, every time you step on a football field, you gotta hang 35 on the opponent, otherwise you don't have a chance to win. And Russell has been amazing. There is no question about that. Down to their 4th-string running back and the whole 9 yards. But so I think there's still a competition going on. Although he turned the ball over a couple times in the last 3 weeks, but there's a competition going on there. And Russell has been absolutely amazing to this point. But Patrick Mahomes is sublime. There is no question about that. So I think it'll be a good race. At least I think Russell will get his first MVP vote, to say the least. But for crying out loud, that does look like a 2-man race right now. And Patrick seems to be heating up here a little bit down the stretch.
If he's not in the driver's seat, he's in the passenger seat. He for sure is not in the back seat. And for the next 10 years, Mahomes will always be in the conversation for MVP. He's that talented, and they look like they're going to keep this thing rolling for a while. So he'll always be in the conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, look, if I'm Patrick Mahomes, I'm like, who going to stop me? Who going to stop me, huh? Because I don't see it. Like, Aaron Rodgers is right there. I give Aaron Rodgers the respect. But that blowout loss when they lost to Tampa Bay kind of took him back. And you got to think about it. Tom Brady not looking the best in this moment after that blowout loss to Drew Brees. And then Russ, here's his problem. He's already used up his mulligans in terms of having 2 bad performances when it comes to the turnover column, 3 turnovers, and then 4 turnovers last week in a loss to Buffalo. So if you think about the NFL going forward, who's the face of the league? It's none of those guys more so than Patrick Mahomes. So the NFL is almost incentivized to kind of give a little bump to Patrick Mahomes.
Dalvin Cook need to be on that list.
Oh, stop. With a running back, it ain't going to happen when you got Patrick Mahomes as the face of the league.
He's not going to win it. Just put him on the list.
No, I mean, Dalvin Cook is balling out of control, but you got the face of the league who's living up to expectations, living up to the investment, and living up by every week his performance. I think it's not even a conversation. Patrick Mahomes is going to be the MVP once again. Fox Bet Live is next.